Earth is dying. Stark builds a solar empire fueled by Superman's blood. Billions thrive, but Kal-El is trapped, drained, and silenced. One drop of truth escapes his lips, and it ignites the core of the sun. The sun screams. It mutates. It fights back. What Iron Man thought he controlled now hunts him. Superman awakens, not as a hero, but as something elemental. Iron Man built heaven, but Superman's confession births apocalypse. Cross swords, and in the end, the world must choose: burn in truth or thrive in blood. The Blood Sun Empire. New Earth was perfect, and powered by Superman's pain. Skyscrapers levitated. Oceans pulsed with regulated tides. Hunger was abolished. Disease was extinct. Weather was programmable. And sunlight? No longer nature's gift. It was Iron Man's invention. In orbit, a colossal crimson reactor, the Blood Sun, glowed across the world like a second star. It spun slow, sacred, alive. And at its core, in a stasis chamber forged from vibranium and kryptonite, floated Superman, unconscious, hooked to a vascular siphon, feeding the sun. Millions called it salvation. Only Stark knew it was slavery. It had started with a lie. Tony Stark stood on the edge of his solar citadel, armor pulsing gold red, eyes dimmed by guilt. The earth below flourished. Poverty was over. Power was limitless. But the cost? He remembered Kal-El's scream. "We're going to die if I don't do this," Tony had said, when the Earth's magnetic core failed. "Then let me help willingly," Superman had pleaded. But time ran out. The collapse came. Stark activated Plan Omega. And Kal-El? He was used. In the Blood Sun's heart, his body floated, arms spread, veins glowing blue-red. Not asleep, not awake, frozen, unaging. His cells were harvested for biophotonics, a new field Tony invented overnight. Superman's blood fed the sun. The sun powered the world. A cult called it divine. The governments called it stability. Tony called it unforgivable. "Energy levels dropping 2% this week," said Friday, his AI assistant. Superman's cells show signs of awareness. Tony's jaw tightened. Is he waking up? Possibly. Then we have a problem. Meanwhile, deep inside the sun, Superman's consciousness stirred. He didn't see faces, just memories. Batman's laugh, Lois' kiss, his father's voice. But louder than all was the silence. He couldn't scream, couldn't move, couldn't die. But he felt every moment, every siphon, every harvest, every time Tony lied to the world and said, "This is clean energy." It wasn't clean. It was bleeding him alive. Suddenly, one thought sliced through the fog like a blade. The sun isn't right. The real sun pulsed with warmth. This sun whispered in screams. He focused his mind, clenched a thought, and that thought, after 7 years of silence, spoke through the energy network. Just one sentence. "I am still alive." On Earth, satellites exploded. Power grids collapsed. Children cried out in nightmares. The oceans trembled. Birds changed migration paths. The sun had flinched. In his lab, Tony dropped his coffee. He heard the words in every speaker, every frequency, every digital screen. "I am still alive." His heart stopped. Cal. A global panic began. People prayed to the Blood Sun. Others protested in the streets. Free the god. Free Superman. The cult fractured. The governments convened. Tony disappeared. Inside a hidden vault beneath Sahara sands, he activated a new suit, model SRAPH. Gold plates. Solar skin. Built to withstand a supernova. He whispered, "If you wake up, Cal, please remember I tried to save us." But it was too late. Superman was already dreaming. In his dream, he saw the truth. Tony had wired the Blood Sun to Earth's life systems. If Superman died, the world would lose light, gravity, balance. Everything would fall. So Tony never let him die. He kept him halfway. Alive enough to bleed. Dead enough not to fight. It was the most calculated prison in history. And in that dream, Superman made a choice. I will confess. Not to humans. Not to Tony. Not to the world. But to the real sun. The confession was not in words. It was in pure heat. One pulse, one solar scream, sent from his heart, through his blood, into the reactor walls. It surged upward. The blood sun spasmed. Satellites melted. Auroras erupted over Africa. Every child on Earth drew a sun in red crayon that day. And the real sun awakened. Yes, the actual sun heard the scream. And it did something no one expected. It responded. Next morning, scientists wept as telescopes captured the impossible. The sun had grown eyes. Two fiery, rotating spirals of ultraviolet fusion. It blinked, then whispered in solar flare. Who dares imprison my child? Iron Man stood alone, watching both suns in the sky. One red, one gold. And he knew he had started a war with a star. And he would need every hero alive just to survive what Superman had become. The sun that spoke back. Two suns now ruled the sky. One was built, one was born, and one was angry. The blood sun, the red artificial star powered by Superman's bleeding body, flickered violently over the earth. And the real sun? It wasn't just burning anymore. It was watching. Tony Stark stared at the sky from his orbital station. This wasn't supposed to happen, he whispered. Friday's voice trembled through his helmet. Sir, solar flare activity has increased 700% in the past 6 hours. The real sun appears sentient. Tony clenched his jaw. It hurt him. On the ground, a child pointed to the sky. Mama, the sun blinked. In Vatican City, lightning struck the basilica. In Tokyo, robots short-circuited mid-step. In the oceans, whales screamed. The world's oldest fire had just awakened, and it was hunting for vengeance. Inside the blood sun, Superman's body began to glow from within. The siphoning tubes couldn't contain it. Kryptonian blood vaporized into solar flares. His skin pulsed with atomic fire. His eyes fluttered. His fists twitched. 7 years of silence shattered. And then he opened his mouth. No sound came out. But across every radio wave, every TV, every speaker across Earth, a pulse echoed. You built your peace on my pain. Tony activated Seraph mode. The golden armor unfolded like wings, made for solar combat, photon pulse thrusters glowing. He blasted into orbit, headed straight for the reactor. He wasn't going to fight Superman. He was going to beg. Kal-El, he said, hovering before the blood-soaked stasis chamber. Superman's eyelids twitched. Tony lowered his helmet. Listen to me. I saved Earth. I had no choice. The voice came back, broken, ghostly, furious. You had every choice. Suddenly, the chamber shattered in a burst of ultraviolet light. Superman stepped forward. But he didn't fly. He didn't speak. He floated like a god awakening in slow, final judgment. Back on Earth, the real sun cracked. A massive arc of solar plasma ejected into space. Not random, not chaotic. A hand of fire, stretching toward the Earth. The solar flare was moving at light speed, projected to burn half the planet. Panic exploded. Nations launched nukes into the sky. Satellites fell like burning meteors. The Earth's magnetic field began to fracture. And above it all, Iron Man hovered between two dying stars. One of steel, one of fire, and the man they both now feared, Superman. Kal, stop, Tony pleaded. If the sun reaches us, we're done. Billions will die. Superman didn't answer, but the air around him vibrated. Then came the voice, raw, ancient, echoing through light itself. You bled me to build a world that worshipped lies. Now let truth burn your kingdom. Tony's suit flared with full power. He launched toward Kal, faster than thought. Superman didn't move. He just breathed. And in that breath, Tony's suit melted. The Mark Seraph, made to survive in stars, peeled apart like paper. His arc reactor exploded. He fell through the atmosphere, burning, dying. And then, he was caught by someone else. A green flash cut through the clouds. Martian Manhunter. You've done enough, Stark, he growled. Now let those who still believe in hope fix your mistake. Tony coughed blood. You don't understand. He's not Cal anymore. He's fused with the sun. He's not just Superman. He's Solaris. The name echoed through space. Superman was no longer a man. His consciousness had merged with the nuclear intelligence of the real sun. He no longer thought in seconds. He thought in solar cycles. He no longer fought with fists. He fought with flares. And then Solaris spoke through the sun itself. This planet must be reborn. And rebirth comes only through fire. In Wakanda, Shuri activated planetary shields. In Atlantis, Mera summoned waterquakes to cool the oceans. In the Watchtower, Batman triggered Protocol Phoenix. But even together, it was like blowing at a volcano. Because the fire was coming. And the fire had a face. Solaris descended through the blood sun. His body now gold. His cape replaced by solar winds. His eyes twin novas. He was coming home. But not as a savior. As a reckoning. Meanwhile, in the ruins of the Fortress of Solitude, Lois Lane stood alone, holding the only weapon that could reach what was left of Clark Kent. A recording, not a weapon. A voice. His mother's. Martha, Kentucky. A final message. Clark, your strength is not your power. It's your restraint. Remember who you are. Lois uploaded it into a Kryptonian crystal and fired it into orbit, straight into the solar storm. Tony, barely alive, looked up from Martian Manhunter's arms. He saw the flare slow. Solaris stopped in midair. His golden eyes flickered. The crystal floated before him. He touched it. The voice played. And for one brief second, Superman blinked. The sun paused. The fire held back. But it wasn't over. Because something else was watching from beyond even the real sun. A third force had felt the scream. And it was coming. Not of Earth. Not of Krypton. Not of this galaxy. It wore no cape. It needed no blood. And it hated fire. The thing beyond fire. Solaris hovered mid-sky, burning, blinking, remembering. Martha Kent's voice echoed through his solar-shaped mind. For 1 second, the fire paused. And somewhere beneath the plasma, the man inside, the sun, Kal-El, struggled to breathe again. But Earth had no time to celebrate. Because space had cracked open. A shadow slid between the two suns. No sound. No warning. Just a presence so cold. Satellites froze in orbit. Inside the Watchtower, Batman stared at the readings. Something's behind the sun, he muttered. Something older than light. Flash vibrated into the room. We talking alien threat? Batman didn't blink. Worse. On screen, a single image appeared, captured from a deep space scope. A face. Smooth. Featureless. Pitch black. Floating like a scar on space itself. It was the thing Solaris had unknowingly summoned. Void God. Void God did not burn. He erased. His body devoured heat, light, memory. He was the anti-sun. Not darkness, but the absence of everything. And now he had heard Solaris scream. And he was hungry. Back in orbit, Iron Man, his suit rebuilt by nanodrones, saw the sky darken again. He looked up. The stars were gone. No eclipse. No dust. Just Void God, swallowing starlight with every inch he drifted closer. Tony whispered. He doesn't block light. He unmakes it. Solaris looked up. He felt fear. The new entity had no temperature. No time signature. It did not move through space. It unwound it. Every photon Solaris released was consumed. Every scream muted. And then Void God spoke. Not in sound, but in absence. Suddenly, all over the earth, voices went silent. Babies stopped crying. Wind vanished. Void God had devoured vibration. And across all frequencies, he projected one sentence. Suns are lies. I am the original truth. Solaris flared defensively. The earth below began to burn again as his fear leaked into flares. But the real Superman, the one inside, felt the shift. The fire wasn't his anymore. He was becoming the sun itself. Losing the man. And something inside him screamed. Lois. Remember Lois? Deep in the Arctic, Lois Lane held a signal rod, the last Kryptonian beacon. She activated it. It sent one thought, straight into Solaris's nuclear mind. You promised to come home. Inside Solaris, Clark Kent wept. For the first time in years, he pushed back. And for a single moment, Superman stepped forward. Golden skin cracked. Solar winds paused. Eyes dimmed. And a heartbeat echoed. Kal-El was alive. He raised his hand, turned toward Void God, and smiled. You think I'm light, he said. His voice wasn't thunder. It was steady, human. I'm not your brother. I'm not your fuel. I'm not your opposite. I'm a farmer's son from Kansas. And then he punched Void God. The impact was impossible. It didn't create light. It restored it. The stars returned. Satellites realigned. Voices came back. For a split second, existence rebooted. But Void God did not fall. He absorbed the blow, then opened his chest, revealing a singularity. It began to pull Solaris in. Every memory, every flare, every life he'd saved. Gone. One by one. Superman screamed. Not in rage. In loss. He saw Lois slip from his memory. Then Jonathan. Then Martha. Void God was eating not just light, but identity. Across the globe, heroes reacted. Wonder Woman launched the sword of Hestia into orbit. Shazam summoned Zeus's bolt. Green Lantern constructed a sun net from thought alone. But none of it mattered. Void God didn't block energy. He made it regret existing. Tony Stark's suit cracked. Then we give him something he can't eat, he whispered. He pulled out the one piece of tech he swore never to use. Stark Drive, Omega-verse engine. It didn't create light. It created possibility. He flew straight at Void God, tossed the Omega engine into the singularity, and whispered, "Let this rewrite everything you've erased." Boom. A white hole exploded from within Void God's chest. Time fractured. Light bled backward. And from that chaos, Superman emerged. But this time, he wasn't fire. He was balanced. His cape was now half flame, half shadow. His symbol no longer red, but glowing silver. He looked at Void God. You erase truth. I am truth. And for the first time, Void God retreated. Not far, just inches. But in cosmic terms, that was fear. Solaris had died. But what stood in its place was Soul Cow, a new form. Not God, not ghost, but guardian. The sky healed. The real sun pulsed softly. The earth exhaled. But far beyond the Milky Way, Void God whispered to the dark. He remembers who he is. Now we show him what he was meant to forget. And in the void, others awakened. The memory war begins. Soul Cal hovered in silence. His body shimmered between fire and shadow. He was no longer just Clark Kent. No longer just Solaris. He was something Earth had never seen. A sentient memory of light. And the last defense against extinction. But the victory was a lie. Void God had retreated not to flee, but to summon. Across the dead corners of collapsed galaxies. He awakened the things Earth never knew existed. The forgotten. Entities that had been erased from time by Superman himself during past universal resets, but now returned with one goal. Break Kal-El's mind. Reclaim the erased. Phase 1. Attack is past. The sky over Smallville split open. A boy on a bicycle, young Clark Kent, froze mid-pedal. Across timelines, the child version of Superman was being hunted. Innocent. Unaware. Until a ripple of pure static ripped through the street. And out stepped Oblivion Wraiths, shaped like versions of himself that had never existed. Superman, if he had landed in Gotham. Superman raised by Darkseid. Superman with no sun. They all lunged. From orbit, Soul Cal felt the tear. No. With a thought, he fragmented himself into time echoes, beings made of heat and memory. He sent one version back in time to defend his child self, another to Krypton's last second, a third into the dream lowest dimension Void God had corrupted. It was no longer a battle of fists. It was a memory war. Meanwhile, Tony Stark stood beside Batman in the ruined watchtower. He split himself? Bruce asked. Yeah, Tony said. Like a psychic firewall. Clever, Bruce replied. But dangerous. If one version of him breaks, Tony muttered, all of him shatters. Inside the dream dimension, Soul Cal found Lois. But she was distorted, smiling wrong, eyes hollow. She whispered, you never saved me. You left me in the sun. He knelt beside her, glowing silver. You're not her, he said. But I'll save you anyway. He hugged her, and she burst into light. Truth always burned illusions. Back in real space, Earth's skies cracked again. This time, not with an attack, but with a reveal. The blood sun, long assumed neutralized, was still pulsing. A backup siphon had activated. Something was still feeding from Superman's blood. And that someone stepped forward. Lex Luthor. Clad in solar-grafted armor, he smirked. I don't need the sun, he said. I just need what's left of you. He raised a vial. Inside, Superman's original DNA. Time to build my own truth. Soul Cal turned, his face unreadable. Lex, you never change. Lex laughed. No, Cal. I evolve. And behind him rose an army of cloned Supermen, but twisted, engineered for conquest, born from betrayal, trained to destroy their source. Soul Cal clenched his fists, then opened them. I don't fight copies, he said softly. I remind them of the original. And with one pulse of memory, every clone saw Krypton, felt his mother's arms, heard Jonathan Kent's laugh. For 1 second, they remembered being real, and they fell to their knees. Lex screamed. His armor cracked. Truth had touched his lie and shattered it. Soul Cal rose higher, above Earth, above memory, because something worse was coming. Not the forgotten, not Lex, but the being that erased memories before they were even born. And it had just arrived. Name unknown, form shifting, power absolute. The final threat whispered, let's see who you really are without anyone to remember you. Erase me if you can. Soul Cal hovered above the earth, broken but burning. Half man, half memory. He held the weight of 2 suns in his chest. One created by betrayal, one born to destroy. And both now stared into the face of uncreation. The final threat had arrived. It had no name, no body, no voice. Just one intention. Delete Superman from existence. Not kill, not imprison, but unwrite him. Across the timeline, reality glitched. In newspapers, Clark Kent's name vanished. Photographs, with him, faded. Videos rewrote themselves with empty skies. Even Lois blinked and, for a second, didn't remember who she was married to. The memory of Superman was dying. And if memory died, so would hope. Iron Man scrambled with Batman in the Watchtower ruins. Can we anchor his presence? Bruce asked. Tony slammed a drive into the console. I'm using quantum roots. If even one person remembers him, the deletion fails. But who? Bruce said. The world is forgetting. Tony looked up. Then we remind them. Across the globe, screens flickered. Holograms appeared in every language, in every village, every city, every phone. Superman stopping meteors, saving kids from floods, laughing with the Flash, holding Lois under starlight. Tony's voice echoed. He bled for you. He burned for you. He became your son. Now remember him, and say his name. And Earth responded. Whispers at first, then chants, then screams. Superman, K-L-E-L. Clark, we remember. From New York to Wakanda to Atlantis, the world shouted the name of the man who held back death. And somewhere in the void, the final threat cracked. It had never faced this before. A soul too loud to delete. Inside the cosmic silence, Soul Cal's body flared. His silver symbol ignited. Your mistake, he said to the void, was thinking I'm just memory. I am legacy. I am choice. I am the fire that outlived erasure. And then, he flew, faster than light, faster than time, straight into the heart of the deletion. He didn't punch, didn't burn. He hugged it, and whispered one final line. Even if you forget me, I will still choose to remember you. Boom. Light shattered. Dark cracked. Time spun inside out. When it was over, the Earth was whole. The blood sun was gone. The fake power grids? Replaced with clean solar tech. Stark's reactor? Decommissioned. No more siphons. No more gods. And, in the sky, one sun remained. Our own. And it was smiling. Superman was gone. But not lost. In every child's drawing of a cape. In every fireman's courage. In every person who chose hope over hate. He lived. And in Kansas, a boy found a red cloth buried under a tree. Wrapped in it, a note. If you're reading this, you're ready. The world needs a new sun. Be kind. Be brave. Be unbreakable. Clark. The end.